great to be with you.
Let's first talk about what you did last week in your role of Attorney General, going after this disgusting website Backpage. What's the latest, and what can you tell us about your crackdown on this sex trafficking that's such a big story?
Well, we're cracking down on sex trafficking all across the state of Missouri, and as part of that, we've launched an investigation of Backpage for its potential involvement and facilitation of sex trafficking. And, of course, Backpage, when we launched our investigation, we went to court. We said, give us Backpage, any documents that you have related to sex trafficking, and then they sued me individually in an attempt to get out of having to give us any documents to try and stop the investigation. So last week, we responded to their frivolous lawsuit, and we put on the record 25 exhibits. That includes phone records, that includes documents, that includes an audio recording and photographs, 25 pieces of evidence, new pieces of evidence that we have uncovered and obtained as part of our investigation that show that Backpage has actively attempted to get traffickers to advertise on Backpage and has also tried to get purchasers of illegal sex trafficking to come to Backpage. There was explosive evidence, most of it entirely new, never before seen in the public domain, and we put all of that out there last week.
If this was a house in a neighborhood or a business or a hard newspaper, right, it would be easier to go after and shut it down. Why is it so hard to shut down this webpage?
Well, Backpage has been hiding behind federal law, claiming protections of the First Amendment and various federal laws for years. But, here's the thing. The First Amendment does not protect human trafficking. The First Amendment does not protect illegal trade in persons. And that is what Backpage is doing. And that's why the evidence that we introduced last week, that we made public, is so significant, because what it shows is that Backpage has very deliberately, as part of a conscious strategy on its part, has very deliberately gone out and tried to recruit sex traffickers to advertise on its website. And why are they doing that? Because they are making money on it. That is not protected by the First Amendment, and that is why their claims that, oh my goodness, we're being harassed, we're just an innocent website, they just look to be totally false.
You certainly don't want to, start cracking down on, free speech you don't like. But, this is so over-the-line despicable. Why not go to some of these Internet providers and say, hey, you know what? Can you just block this one page? Can you block this? Why can't you do something like that?
Well, and that is a great idea, and that various places, including businesses, should do and should think about. And here's a startling statistic: is that much of, at least, the trafficking activity, the sex trafficking that takes place in the United States, in the state of Missouri, it happens online. And get this, it happens during the workday. It happens by people purchasing illegal sex at work, on their work computers. And so encouraging businesses to block sites like this is something that is absolutely a great idea, and actually something that we are doing. But also, you make a great point, McGraw. We can't go after, we don't want to punish free speech, for heaven's sake. I'm a constitutional lawyer. I believe in the First Amendment. But I also believe that pages like Backpage, sites like Backpage that engage in illegal exploitative behavior and then claim the protection of the First Amendment, that cheapens the First Amendment for all of us. So, again, First Amendment's no protection for illegal behavior. It's no protection for trading in persons, for promoting slavery. And that's what Backpage appears to be doing. And I would just say this. Let me just add this. If Backpage is innocent here, if they have nothing to hide, they should come forward with the documents. They should come forward with the information. But what we're seeing instead is they're stonewalling us, and meanwhile we're finding all this stuff that suggests they are facilitating human trafficking.
Josh Hawley with us in your role as Attorney General. The heroin and opioid epidemic is front and center. The U.S. Attorney General, Jeff Sessions, wants to criminalize it and sort of crack down on it and arrest more. Do you think that's a good idea, a bad idea? And from you, where you sit as Attorney General, what do you see as the problem with this heroin epidemic?
Well, we need a multi-front approach. It's not just any one thing is going to address what has become a full-blown public health crisis. And as it relates to the heroin trade, what has become a full-blown public safety crisis in terms of the heroin coming from Mexico and other places, going across the border and spreading across the country and across our state. Now, we have gone to court. I have gone to court to take on 3 of the biggest drug manufacturers in America because they have lied about the nature of these drugs to doctors and to consumers. So I have filed a lawsuit. It's one of the largest lawsuits in Missouri history. It seeks to hold accountable 3 of the big drug companies who make these opioids, these prescription painkillers, and to hold them accountable for the fraud and deceit that they had perpetrated on the public. And I think that has got to be a huge part of the way forward here. Victims need to get restitution. Victims need a chance to heal and recover, and the drug companies who have helped fuel this epidemic need to be held to account.
Is there a correlation between the rise of this sex trafficking and the heroin crisis?
Well, we do find that drugs are frequently involved in sex trafficking. Just a few weeks ago, we launched and carried out what we believe is the largest anti-trafficking raid in Missouri history. We served warrants on 18 locations across southwest Missouri. It was part of a coordinated raid that swept in 3 other states. We tried to take down a human trafficking ring that had established a big foothold in Missouri, and then from there into these other states. It was hugely successful. We were able to liberate a series of women who were victims who have been brought from East Asia and were being held and pressed into sex slavery right here in Missouri. And what we often find when we do these things, and when you look at how sex slavery gets perpetrated in the state, it often involves drugs and trying to get the young women who are made victims here, either to get them hooked on drugs themselves or get them selling drugs, and then the trafficker is able to hold that over their heads. So there is a nexus. You are right to see that there is a nexus. Not always heroin. It can be other drugs too, but there is a nexus, and it's important to go after both of these things simultaneously. We've got to crack down on the illegal heroin that is flowing across our borders. We've got to crack down on those who are perpetrating the opioid crisis. And we've got to go after sex traffickers, and we've got to do it all at once.
It's all heartbreaking. Josh Hawley, you are currently the Attorney General, and there are rumors swirling about what you want to do in the next couple of months. Any truth to these gross, ugly rumors from the fake news that you might be running for United States Senate?
Well, I tell you, I don't know if I have anything new to add on that this morning from what we've said. This is something that we're giving some thought to and trying to take very seriously. I have had a lot of folks point out it's an urgent time in our country's history, and the United States Senate is an important place where there's important work being done. But look, so we're, as I said before, we are giving it serious thought. But I have to tell you that at the moment, all of my focus is on what we've just been talking about. It's on the important and vital work that we've got to do right here in the state of Missouri. And, we're going to keep going after it. I mentioned the 18 locations that we served warrants on in southwest Missouri, but the sad truth is there is sex trafficking happening all across our state, in every area of our state, and we're going to continue to fight hard to take that on, to take on Backpage, take on the opioid manufacturer. So there is a gob of work to do, and I'm working as hard as I can at it.
Josh Hawley, that is the best non-answer I think I've ever heard out of a non-politician who's currently the Attorney General. If and when you are ready to announce, you are always welcome here, so you can always break news here on the show if you want.
Thank you. It's always a pleasure to be with you.
You got it. Josh Hawley, the current Attorney General for the state of Missouri. Thanks, sir.